This is Hacker Public Radio episode 3391 for Monday, the 2nd of August 2021. Today's show is entitled HPR Community News for July 2021 and is part of the series HPR Community News. It is the 180th show of HPR Volunteers and is about 77 minutes long and carries an explicit flag. The summary is HPR Volunteers talk about shows released and comments posted in July 2021.
This episode of HPR is brought to you by archive.org. Support universal access to all knowledge by heading over to archive.org/donate.
Hi everybody, my name is Ken Fallon and you're listening to another episode of Hacker Public Radio. Today, community news for July 2021. Joining me this time of day is...
Hi there, it's Dave Morris.
We're doing this on Sunday morning because of a scheduling issue yesterday. Anyway, HPR is the longest running podcast in the world that doesn't have a Wikipedia page. And we release shows every weekday, Monday to Friday, on any topics that's of interest to hackers. And to make sure that those hackers get some sort of feedback, we come on every month and do a review of the previous month's shows. What could be simpler, Dave?
Absolutely. It's a brilliant idea, very simple.
And as we do every month with our we ask ourselves, which of those 35,000 listeners that have been listening all month has stood up to the plate and contributed to this project? Drum roll, please, Dave.
Oh dear, they were busy. We're off doing other things because we have had no new hosts this month, I'm afraid.
Wah, 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 wah. Very, very disappointing. Very disappointing, Dave. However, hopefully next month they'll be joining us in droves. We'll have to bait them off with a stick. Anywho.
Yeah. I'm getting the stick ready as we speak.
Excellent. So this is turning into like one of those morning radio shows with Dave and Ken, the wackiest two radio shows in the world. Good morning, Dave.
Oh no. Please make it stop.
Okay. Speaking of two comedians, the first show from last month was Season 1, Episode 33, or HPR 3369, The Return of the Rust. Yet another attempt by the Linux in-laws to push Rust as a viable programming language. One we know will never succeed.
No, it didn't sound like it at all, did it? No. The guest they had on sounded really, really good. He was fantastic. He knew lots of stuff, but I'm sure it was just Chris pushing Rust all the time. No, but it does sound really, really good. I was sitting reading a book, reading a Rust manual as they were talking, and it does. Maybe I'm too old to switch languages. I don't know, but it does sound like a great thing to go and mess around with.
Why, Dave? Why would I bother?
Well, it depends what you need, really, isn't it?
We could do with a Hello World program from them. You know, just this is Rust. This is how you do a simple Hello World thing. Should actually be a minimum requirement for introducing us to, there would be a good series for HPR, introduce us to a few basic programs, like your basic Hello World, and then maybe your basic open a file, close a file, edit a file, that sort of thing. if somebody could come up with a list of things that should be covered in a topic to introduce a new language to HPR, so that everybody at least would be able to write, the basics in a particular in any given programming language. So, for example, in Perl, this is how you would print hello world. This is how you would open a file, edit it, and close it again. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Some basic stuff might be a good one.
Yep. Yeah. That sounds good.
So, if you listening to this show could just make a note of that and send that in, that would be great. Excellent. Kevin O'Brien said, I loved the show. I found this discussion fascinating. I also noted that Linus had mentioned the possibility of using Rust for the Linux kernel. That is not something you hear every day. If some talented programmer out in HPR land wanted to do a series on programming in Rust, I think this would be a big hit. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well said.
And speaking of Kevin, we had more free images from the very good man himself, part of the series of GIMP. But this one was more like generic. This was about getting just general free images for using in general. Very good resource, this.
Yes, absolutely. I have had occasion to use this type of thing. Not recently, but next time I do, I will go looking through the list. I did actually have a little look at some of them. There were some slightly different ways in which they were made available, which Kevin warned about. So they're not entirely as free as you might expect in some cases, but still some excellent stuff there.
Well worth listening to the show if you're thinking about if you're thinking about looking for images that are well licensed. Have a quick listen to the show. It's not too long, and Kevin has done all the dirty work with the licenses for you, so you can make your own informed choice. Speaking of informed choices, HPR Community News last month. I don't know what that has got to do with informed choices, but at least there were some comments.
Right, the first. Shall I?
Go first.
It's my turn, right? Yep. Frank posted the first comment, and it was entitled, "A comment on your comment about my comment. Greetings. In my comment on the terminal journey, part 1, I wrote that I had to split my comment because I got an error when I tried to send it in one piece. Your reply in this here installment was that postings are limited in length, but that is not the problem I had. Yes, I did reach the limit and I could type no farther. So I fixed my sentences to shorten the post by a little bit and then clicked on send, but I got an actual error page. So I cut my text in half and then submitted it just fine. I suspect a bug in the form checker or even the back end. I do realize that there's enough stuff in my head for several shows. I'm working on that concept."
Excellent. Right, I'll do the next two because I replied to that. Actually, I'll do the reply to that first. So I replied saying errors in the comment. There is a limit on the amount of text that you can put in a doc in a box, in the comment box, and that is put in with the value max length equals 2000 in HTML. There is also a trigger there is also a limit that triggers the error CD57AB blah 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 CB. When the server sees that, the string length is greater than 2000. So you have HTML checking that the form is 2000, and you've got the PHP that checks that it's 2000. You would think that they would be the same, but they are not due to the amount of data required to encode characters. Max length counts the number of characters, while string length is the actual data passed. So if you include smart quotes, for example, it takes double the space of normal quotes. So if you echo a normal double quote into a double quote.text and echo a smart quote into double curly quote.text, and you do an ls of both of them, you'll see one is 2 bytes and the other is 4 bytes. For a good overview of why this is, see Characters, Symbols, and the Unicode Miracle by Computerphile by Tom Scott, and I give the link there, which is actually well worth a watch if you want to watch it. Short!
Yes, I would agree. I watched it.
It's
very good, very good.
If anyone's hitting either errors, you should be doing a show. We shouldn't be discussing this. If you're hitting the limit, you should be doing a show. Thank you very much.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Yes, yes. So, shall I do Trey's then?
Please, yes.
So Trey says, congrats on joining the ham community. Thank you for your positive feedback and welcome to the ham community. Looking forward to your podcast about it. Now I may need to do some myself.
Oh, Trey getting in there. I owe you a show and you owe me a show. Well done. Let's see what you did there.
That's that's
subtle,
pretty good.
Subtle as a chainsaw. Yeah. Be Easy says, Ranger was previously on HPR, and it was indeed. Yes. I think I'll record a follow-up episode as well. There's somebody else doing a hashtag I owe you a show.
Very good. Incidentally, we'd not tagged that show very well because I thought, I wonder if it's in the list of tags, and there was nothing for Ranger, so I fixed that particular issue. But it's if you're doing tags and you talked about several bits of software, then I think it would be quite cool to add tags pointing to them so people can find them,
Yeah, and if people can send us feedback about missing tags. For example, I was looking for a show on IVF, but the IVF tag is not there. It's just in the summary and not in the tags itself. So I need to make a note to fix that. Yes.
Although the tag stuff is coming along nicely, that's not the end of the story. There's quite a lot of curation of the tags and stuff that's going to be needed, because we've got things like one tag's got the plural of the word and the other one's got the singular of the word, and we should be more consistent about that. And that probably needs an editor to go through and clean it up, which is what I've done on a few occasions.
Yeah, if somebody's bored and wants to help out, that's something you can do.
Absolutely.
Yep. So the following day we had the community news show. Rebooting myself. The following day we had the New Year's Eve show, episode 8, and Honky says, I would like to thank everyone who joined the podcast. Without people coming on and taking part, there would be no podcast. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to everyone again next year. Yes, it was nice.
Yeah. It was an excellent year this year. It had some really good stuff and some interesting people and some interesting interactions as well. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed very much listening to the thing.
And then we had the HPR the HPR RPG Club reviewing Starfinder. Dave, I think I need to get another coffee. Starfinder is a science fiction RPG using Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 rules. This was very interesting, as it was the only D&D game I ever got involved with in my life.
Yes. I was surprised to hear you talking to on that particular show. But good, excellent.
I think it actually, I was quite negative about playing, but in hindsight now, I think it's more to do with the stress of having to move house and rebuilding while doing this, and there was other stuff going on at the time. So maybe my head just wasn't in the correct space for playing that. Perhaps all when things are quieter. Well, straight faced. When things are calmer in the house, we might suggest ask Klaatu, can I join another game?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be good. You might find you enjoy it more than you think. So it's always worth just pushing these boundaries a little bit.
So there was no comments on that. The following day we had Swift 110 with Why I Love the MacBook Mid 2010. and he did some upgrades to the hardware, and then upgraded the software to the Catalina version of Mac.
Yes, it was. He has lots to say about his various machines, and this is obviously the one he's really enjoying at the moment. So good for him.
Now, I actually got a MacBook from work, and I want to run Linux on it, and in fact, eventually got Linux installed on it. I have an open bug, and the bug is related to the fact that I can't pass. So I need to encrypt the hard disk, obviously. So I need to be able to add a module in Grub so that the Lux unlocker will recognize the Mac keyboard. If I can do that, then I can use that hardware for basically all the stuff that I need to do, because it's actually quite a good Linux machine. But there's lots of stuff to be ironed out, like having no function keys and all the rest. But if I can't even log into the computer because I don't have a keyboard module. So my long and short of it is, does anybody know how to add a module to Grub? And the module I need to add is called keyboard. And I don't know how to do that. So if somebody could either leave a comment to this show or ideally record a show themselves about it, that would be absolutely awesome. Because it is actually it's a nice solid physical piece of hardware, and I see no reason why I can't use Linux on it.
Yep. My son is very much a MacBook fanatic, having been a music student. So and he, I think, has he bought one lately? I can't remember now. He was fed up with, although he quite liked the ThinkPad that he bought to run Linux, because his computer science course is all about writing stuff on Linux. He actually found he preferred having a Mac again. So I think there's good and bad.
Well, I think this actually is a little bit of an issue that I see here. This is me going off on a political rant now, nothing to do with HPR. I think a lot of companies give MacBooks out to people, and people find that they're close enough to the Linux environment that I'm not going to bother running Linux on it. So therefore, there's zero support, and that to me means we're failing as a community, because here we have all these actual developers who are running hardware that's capable of running Linux, and yet nobody seems to be running Linux on them because sure, it's just too much hassle. Yeah, but otherwise, if we don't run the stuff, then we don't fix the problems, and then we don't have a LXDE that is small enough to run a Windows or windowing environment when a Raspberry Pi comes out, or we don't have a kernel small enough and modular enough to be able to run on a mobile phone when Android comes out. Yeah, so this I don't buy this argument of we'll just run the proprietary software, and that's exactly what Microsoft has seen this, and that is exactly why they're putting in Linux support in, so that people will never feel the need to leave the Windows environment, because it's close enough, it does everything that you want to do, and then you're nice and comfy in that environment, and you never break out, and we lose the whole innovation that comes from people having a miserable time running their operating system, essentially, which is what you doom yourself to if you are running a Linux desktop environment. But, with that, you get the freedom. Yeah, freedom is never free, Dave. Freedom is never free, Dave. Never.
Takes some work.
Yeah. There's always a cost. Anyway, that particular political broadcast was brought to you on behalf of the EFF Europe. Anywho, card, 3375. Car ODB2 Fun and Fail. This is something that I really like, the idea of the ODB2 thing, that you have all these sensors in your car that completely unprotected. But on the other hand, don't want to be hacking my own car, as I don't have a car in the first place.
Yes. It's not a thing I'm going to do. Although the fact that it's possible to do, and you can do it in your garage or in your driveway or whatever, is pretty cool, I think.
Yep.
But, not for me.
Yeah, but it's again, it's the right to repair if the thing fails to run because you replace an oil filter and then you have to tell the onboard computer that you replace the oil filter or it won't start or whatever. Then yes, absolutely, we need to be able to do this.
Yeah. Well, the right to repair thing is very important. I have a friend who is a retired aircraft engineer who would not consider having a car that he couldn't fix, which is why he's got an old Volvo at the moment. The last time I saw him.
Excellent.
So yeah. So that philosophy is very much there, and people have huge expertise in working on this sort of stuff. So I'm all for that.
And if you're not repairing stuff, then you're not seeing how things work, and you're not seeing that you can repair stuff. Mm-hmm. It's and your kids and your family are not seeing that. Society is not aware then that you can repair stuff, that you're throwing something away, that a 50 cents component has gone in it, and you could repair that yourself. Kind of funny. Mm-hmm. I was thinking the other day, Dave, as the door handle was falling off the toilet, to be brutally honest, that and I was looking at the solid thing, that when you were a lad, you were telling me that you had to do brazing and stuff, mechanical stuff, woodwork and and metalwork.
Yeah, part of high school life. Yeah, only the boys though, not the girls. They weren't allowed to do that.
Knitting and cooking,
sew things and cook stuff. Yeah.
But I think that may have been dictated by policies related to the end of the war, and that we had to be self-sufficient and make everything last, etc., etc., etc. Or am I wrong?
I think so too, because the mindset in the 40s, 50s, 60s was that you can't always call on somebody. You have to be able to deal with basic stuff yourself, So it was the way my dad used to work. He built cabinetry in the kitchen when we moved into a new house, and he laid concrete paths all the way up and down the garden and all those sorts of things. And it just seemed like the natural, normal thing to do because everybody was doing it. You wouldn't be out there with a shovel and bag of cement these days doing that, most likely.
No. So is he not deliberately not doing that himself? But then again, I've made the choice. I know how to do it. I have done it. I don't want to do it. I'm fortunate enough not to have to do it. And some of the stuff that's happening, I know that I don't want to be doing it. I don't want to be replacing a structural beam that's holding up the back of my house. Thank you very much. I'm somebody who's fully insured to be doing that.
That's maybe going a little far, yeah. The RSJ that you did yourself might be the one that falls on your head.
Yeah. But stuff like fixing a washing machine and that sort of thing, all not made very easy for somebody to do, is also what I'm saying. Anyway, this is getting very political, but we should, in the evenings, I'm just ready to go to bed, so we rush this thing through now. This early in the morning, I have loads of gripes. Making books with Linux, what's possibly could be controversial about that, Dave?
Oh, nothing at all. No.
This was your solution to this.
Well, yeah, sort of, yeah. It ended up just me prattling about things that I do in regard to notes and books and documentation and stuff. I thought I'd lost focus a little bit there. Which is why I added a bit to the notes that said, by the way, going back to what we were supposed to be talking about. But it was. I blame Andrew. He kept asking me questions.
Exactly. Good default stance. Blame Andrew. Yeah.
But it's an interesting subject, and it's actually quite large. I don't think we'll be doing any more, particularly unless something comes up that sounds very, very interesting and worth sharing on HPR. But the subject is a fascinating one. A lot of people are trying to do this very thing. I see things on social media, people saying, "How would you make a such and such type of document?" And Markdown's not quite up to the sort of quality that I want, and long discussions about how you do that. ASCII Doc and ASCII Doctor come up fairly often as well.
And John Culp, inspired by this series, has done a show himself on the topic, which is coming up shortly.
Indeed.
Chromebook support and more when hamsters meet humans. Send Floater 2. This was an interesting show. Yeah.
Yes. It's yeah.
It was a good show. Technically, hamster and stuff aside.
It was squirrel, I think. But yes,
squirrel. Yes, not a hamster. Hamsters of the world,
turn into squirrels. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's certainly on the bleeding edge of all this sort of stuff. And and while running a bath, I thought that was the most impressive bit. But,
Clinton Roy summarizes the whole thing, saying the subject, well, that was something.
Yes. It was certainly an unusual approach to a show, but
absolutely HPR, core HPR material right there.
Absolutely.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Technical madness. That's what it was. Not necessarily in the same thing, but very good. Very good. Aside from keeping dangerous electrical components away from big pools of water, might be a good plan. That's all I'd say. But yes, squirrels are known for their daring and danger.
Indeed.
The following day, Jezra with a brilliant show, because it's brilliant because I'm A, interested in satellites, and B, I'm really interested in the Starlink internet service, what they're planning on doing. Interested does not necessarily mean approve of or disapprove of. Disapprove of, Dave? Which is it? Approve? Disapprove? Yeah. Unapprove. How about that? But it was a good breakdown on the tech and on the results. Brilliant. If you're out in the sticks, or actually, I think this has been developed more for high-speed financial transactions, faster internet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that aspect of it passed me by, I have to say.
This is the whole business case of the thing, is that fiber optic cables run from this point to that point to that point, and what they hope to do is, in low Earth orbit, that they'll be able to get the satellites themselves to communicate between each other, so that the actual distance is more direct than it would be with a underwater cable.
Okay. Yeah.
Shaving off milliseconds in trades, meaning the trades can occur faster.
Yes, for as long as capitalism continues, because of course.
Indeed. And unfortunately, Dave, it shows no sign of disappearing anytime soon.
Depends who you listen to, actually. But
comrades.
Yes. I found this fascinating. I knew Starlink, and because I listened to quite a lot of astronomy podcasts, and some of them have been very, very angry about all of this stuff whizzing through the night sky and messing up, long exposure astronomical photography, etc., and the stuff about Musk saying that he's going to make the satellites less reflective, which is, I think it's just a PR stunt more than anything else. But but I had not appreciated exactly what the user of it would get and what the factors are. So there's a guy on YouTube, Jeff Geerling, who does quite a lot of Raspberry Pi stuff that I follow, and he has installed one of these as well. And he has I think it's on the roof of his house, and it's but he has a big maple tree not too far away from it. So there's points in where a satellite's going over where the tree blocks access to the signal, and then it's all nice and clear. So he did a graph of where things get a bit yucky, and then it all comes back together again really nicely. I think Jezra was experiencing similar things. Yeah, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with this is because the satellites are moving, with geostationary satellites, you only have that problem. You still have that problem, but the problem remains, if you're able to find a place between the two trees that you can spot, get direct line of sight with the satellite, you're sorted. But with this, because they're moving in a preset pattern in the sky, you need to be able to track them, and it needs to be clear for the whole duration of their orbit.
The fact that these dishes actually do the tracking through some very clever electronics, which I don't understand, but still pretty cool, means that there will be that they're following a sort of hemisphere of movement of the satellite, and if there's anything anywhere in that hemisphere or a line through that hemisphere, then you potentially have a problem. And also, it's prone to weather. I think Jezra said that.
Yep, but it's still better than no service.
Oh, absolutely. If you're out somewhere where nobody wants to lay a cable or a fiber or whatever, then yeah, absolutely. We heard about that in rural Lancashire back many years ago with the B4RN barn project.
Exactly.
Not.
We did indeed. Speaking of people taking matters into their own hands and coming up with a solution. Yes. 3379 monochromic HPR Linux in-laws, season 1, episode 34, the one with the intelligence, part 4 of a 3-part mini-series on AI. Generated pre-trained transforms, GPTs, in this one.
Yes. I just see a spelling mistake in the notes I didn't spot at the time. Oops. Never mind. Yes. It's a fascinating area, but I can't claim to understand more than a teeny fraction of stuff at the moment. But it's there's some good links that you could follow up if you had the time to go and look further.
Yeah, good start. Good synopsis actually. That whole series, well worth a listen, and very good links involved. And the following day, we had a hookah with building a better Goodreads with ActivityPub. And I don't know if you know Goodreads at all, Dave. Kind of book recommendation site.
I've heard of it, and hookah did describe it to some extent. So yeah, it's a sort of social networking reading network type of thing, isn't it? It's a sort of social reading, however you'd like to put those words together. It sounds like a great idea, except that it's owned by the most hated company on the planet, possibly.
Possibly,
not, but certainly quite disliked by many people, which is Amazon.
You needed to say the word. You couldn't leave it to people's imagination to figure out what company it was.
Aye, yeah, because they've probably got a huge list of hated companies.
You're now on a list, Dave. You are so on a list when they come to get you. Yeah, actually, this was a good idea for a good example of where ActivityPub would make sense. Actually, it's not a strange concept at all, by all means.
No. It's something that's well worth looking into. I need to learn a lot more about what would be entailed to give a proper comment about it, I guess. But still, it seemed to have the makings of something quite useful there.
Yeah. So the next day we had Klaatu goes for a walk and talks about learning to skateboard. Gosh, this was inspirational. And I'm not saying that not saying that in any way derogatory. This was actually quite inspirational.
Absolutely, yeah. All power to Klaatu for making this move, and also of talking about it in this way.
Absolutely, yeah. John Culp says, consult available. I love this episode. Props to you for learning this as an adult. That's really cool. It was wonderful hearing about the sense of euphoria you felt when you first did various maneuvers. It's easy for me to forget what this feels like because it happened so long ago for me. I was a competitive skateboarder on half pipes in the 80s and have a ton of experience. So if you ever need a human being to talk through any of this with you, hit me up and record the show for HPR. Obviously, he meant to put that in, but forgot. Will be fun for me. Glad to hear you will be getting some safety equipment, but you did not mention one of the most important safety items, a pair of wrist guards. Most of the time when people fall, they put their hands out to catch themselves, and it's very easy to break a wrist this way. Getting yourself some good wrist guards because you're going to need your hands. Have fun and be safe.
Cool. So John Culp follows that up with comment entitled Skate Shoes. Forgot to mention you should not have to pay that much for a decent pair of shoes. A much more affordable option is Converse Chuck Taylor high tops. Those are the shoes I wore until I got my first pair of Vans high tops. The Chuck Taylors have an excellent grip on the board, though they don't have any ankle padding. If you lace them up nice and tight, you get good support against turning your ankle, but they won't protect you if your board bangs into your ankle. The Vans high tops are excellent in every respect. I think I got a pair for about $50 several years ago, but maybe they cost more now.
Now, I would not have put down John Culp as a, what did he call himself? Competitive skateboarder.
He has mentioned this before. I was aware of this.
I
think he pointed. He's got some YouTube videos of him as an older person doing a bit of skateboarding in a skate park, and he's. I think he still has it. He's still pretty. He's kept himself fit, and his balance is fantastic, which you need to be. This is why I don't do these sorts of things, because my coordination and balance are dreadful. But he, he's quite a guy.
Amazing. I just learned 2 pieces of information about Klaatu this week that I was not aware of as well. Both of which I'll tell you after the show, if you're interested. But the rest of you are just going to have to figure out, what does Ken know about Klaatu? One thing I know is he doesn't have a HPR sticker on his laptop. Very strange.
Yes, indeed.
Following day we had 3382. How I fixed a fault in my car for free thanks to YouTube. By the way, that sounds really freaky. I learned some things about Klaatu that I didn't know. I was talking to him just in a conversation, and he mentioned stuff. That's all. It's not that weird.
Okay, that's good.
I'm not like hiring teams of detectives to figure out stuff about Klaatu, just so you know.
Yeah, and that AI thing you've been writing
exactly, yeah.
digs into people's internet history.
Heat shielding in a car. Why would you have a heat shield? What's a heat shield?
Don't ask me. I have no idea. Is it something? It's related.
I think it's something to do with the
exhaust.
The exhaust.
Yep. Don't know. I do not get into car stuff anymore. I have done in the past when cars were easier to repair and stuff. I used to work for my uncle who had a garage, but only trivial stuff. But yeah. But I have no idea. I should have checked because I forgot to do it, and I didn't look at the YouTube video either. So yeah.
I think it's a cover over a muffler or a silencer.
Oh, right, okay. I wasn't aware that they did that type of thing.
No, I had a lot of experience with I was stuck up in a place that there was zero chance of getting out and I could only afford a really crappy car, so I ended up going to the scrapyard, taking bits off older cars and then putting them onto it. Became a franking car.
Yeah. There's a lot of mileage in that type of thing.
There is. And when you don't have to do it anymore, that's great too. Because we invented public transport. I don't have to think.
Yes. Well, you're in the right country for avoiding all that stuff.
You'd think. But over here where we are, there is no public transport. There is a bus that goes every half hour and once an hour on Sundays. So I ended up having to drive my wife's car, which is a rental or a private lease. And anything with the kids, you have to drive them into the thing and back. And then my back is absolutely wrecked as a result of it. So I'm looking forward to being back to civilization.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Where were we? My geeky experiment. And Asus EEPC 901, one of the originals, running BSD on it. Very, very cool.
Yes, it never occurred to me to do this. I have a EEE PC, the later version. What was it, 1005 or something? Or something with starts with a 1000. And it had Crunchbang on it for a while, but still does because I've not used it. But that would be. I'm quite tempted to have a go at this. It's really interesting.
Yeah. No Bluetooth though.
Yeah, I
don't like Bluetooth.
No, I wouldn't use it. I do use Bluetooth for my from my phone to my headphones and things, but not much otherwise.
Bluetooth, I think, sucks. On page 3 of the specification, it says Bluetooth should always suck because it's the only explanation for a protocol that's been around so long to still suck as much as it does.
Yes, there was something else I would use it, but yeah.
ZenFloater2 says, why I love OpenBSD. I love OpenBSD because they produce a secure OS. They also produce a whole OS. You will never see the lead kernel developer at an OpenBSD insert a patch into the code which was developed by the NSA into the kernel. Then only withdraw the patch after the entire community forces them to do so. Integrity, security, code correctness. I remember hearing about that, but which developer was that and what OS was it? Was it OpenBSD or was it another kernel?
I have no idea. I don't keep up with this stuff anymore.
I tried to have a look and see what it was, but I can't. ZenFloater 2, which actually means there's a ZenFloater 1 out there somewhere. Probably electrocuted himself with his laptop in the bath. Anywho, where were we? Yeah, send us a link to that because I tried to find it but I couldn't. Yes, page numbers in EPUB files 3384 by John Culp in response to 3367. I love response shows, I really do. And it's how you should do it properly, Dave.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. I just realised I didn't actually comment on this at all, and I planned to. It's been a bad month. Really, really interesting. I'm not quite sure how you paginate a sort of wobbly bit of text like an EPUB. Do you? I think John says something, or he's maybe commented that there are mechanisms that count number of words and say after 250 or something, that's the end of a page. But I've got EPUBs that have been that are SAMS books that have indexes in them, and they have links to chapters in the index rather than pages. They just say, or, chapters and sections and stuff. If you want to find the word banana, then you look in the banana chapter in the subsection.
Okay.
Yellow stuff. I don't know, but yeah. But so I haven't quite managed to. This hasn't completely resolved the issue as far as I'm concerned. But I've not given it any attention because I've been doing other things. But yeah, an excellent thing, and thank you very much, John. That was very, very helpful.
So we have fixed the problem of how to do it, but or what's the syntax for putting in a page break, page identifiers, and then an index, but not how you would determine where the pages are.
And I'm also not clear how you would make an EPUB 3 from nothing, from using Pandoc or something, but maybe there's a simple way of doing that.
Anyone who knows, send in a show. DIY cat feeders. You talked about a 3D printed cat feeder. I was going to make reference to your cat, but alas, she has passed.
Indeed. This was most interesting, actually. It's I looked at the Thingiverse, the project, and it's quite clever, and the way it runs, where it's using a plastic auger that you've printed, feeds stuff out of a container, and then it reverses for a little bit to stop there being any blockages, because this is dry food pellet stuff.
Yeah.
Looks really good. But yeah, it's not a thing I would have ever used, to be honest. My late cat was possibly a strange one. You just gave her a bowl of food. The wet food she'd eat straight away and clean the bowl out. But there was another bowl of dry food, which you just go and nibble at every little while. And she self-regulated her feeding, which, having been a biologist and looking after caged animals and stuff for a while, a lot of animals do that. They don't. If you give them food, they don't just go and gorge themselves. They just go and have a little nibble and then up again. Mice and rats and those sorts of things quite happily do that. So I don't know. Maybe cats. I don't know that much about cats. Maybe they're a piggy type of cats that just eat it all. But yeah, interesting though.
It was interesting that you lose the bond with the cat using an automatic feeder, which kind of makes sense. Yeah, you're no longer the provider. The provider is this magic box in the wall.
That's an important thing. Yeah, we taught our cat to know the time that she'd be fed, and also she had a treat time as well. And she'd know. She'd say, "Oh, it's time." She'd be there, saying, "Oh, yeah, come on, you're supposed to be giving me stuff now." How did she know the time? I have no idea.
Perhaps, Dave, she had a database to randomly.
she was thrown by DST.
She had a Perl script as
that's what it was.
Database. A bit like what you did in episodes 3386 the following day. Yes, this is perfectly logical and this is perfectly normal, Dave. Don't ever change it.
Yeah. Well, it's the way my mind works. So
absolutely,
there you go.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I share these bizarre things, and and sometimes I just keep quiet because I've done enough damage to my reputation already.
Not at all. You should not keep quiet. You keep sending in shows. This I listened to while my wife was in getting her second vaccination. So that was made me chuckle.
Well, it's working fine, and it does the job, and it amuses me to say how many times have we had haggis, neeps, and taddies, and how frequently was it?
Yeah.
And they go, wow, yes, we've had it a lot, haven't we? We really like that very much. Oh, that's good then.
It's but there are bound to, I mean, sure, there are bound to be occasions when people need this sort of thing, not necessarily for doing recipes and whatever, but there are always going to be things where you want to, whenever we get to go back into the theatre, or, when you have a group of people that want to do different things, going out for a night, for example. Not that I do, or not that I can, but technically, we've been to the cinema 4 times, we've been to the theatre 4 times. I want to go to cliff walking or something. You could adapt that same concept to doing other things like events or even books that you read or whatever. It doesn't necessarily need to be for menus.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. The principle is there anyway. You could play around with the ideas. I think it was you who suggested I put it up on a Git repository. So that was the tail end of the project.
Super.
Yep.
Following the InfoSec podcast, part 5, grab bag, and this is Trey, I think, rounding up his series. No, he still has 1 left to go. And good. I like this. It's another one I was listening to at the vaccination center.
Yes, he's got some great podcast recommendations here. These are really good, and I found I'd heard of a few of them. Haven't had many coincidences with the things that I listen to, but Command Line Heroes, I've been listening to that. That's pretty good. So anyway, lots of good stuff there, and a great resource to go back and look at if you need
exactly
information.
And if you're short a podcast, the podcast recommendation series is actually quite a good one now. Good resource.
Mm-hmm.
So we must be hitting the end nearly, Dave, on the 28th. The 3rd episode this month, Free Software Foundation Europe by the Linux In-Laws guys. Very good interview. I think I interviewed him before at the Free Software booth in FOSDEM.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting guy, and some interesting discussions about the organization and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. I do enjoy the interview shows, by the way. I think I've said this before. The interviews come out really, really well, and some very interesting people to talk to.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that episode. 1 second. Yes, it was 1713. But again, at FOSDEM, you're only going to get a short snippet. It was back in 2015,
mm-hmm.
and this really did justice to the movement and the man. So there was one comment on that.
It's my turn, yeah.
Yeah.
Brian in Ohio says free speech. So free speech is okay unless the FSFE, decides it's not okay. Except for RMS's quirky behavior, he was never accused of doing anything illegal. He was merely exercising his right endowed by our creator of free speech. His only fail was not realizing that the thought police had invaded the FSF. Down with Big Brother.
Okay, fair enough. Not necessarily agreeing with that, but fair enough.
No, it's a free speech comment. Again, not agreeing in any sense at all, actually. But that's for another day.
Tales of a Tagger. Ventures and Mishaps Tagging Past Shows. This is Archer72, who has posted lots of summaries as well, and basically walked through how to do it for anybody who wants to join in the fun.
Yeah, it was very useful that he did this, actually. I know we've talked about this in the past, but it's been quite a while, and it's moderately complex when you hear of him of his problems with it and so forth. It's you can see how you could easily trip up with some of these oddities. Some of the limits on the sizes of things are a little bit arbitrary, so it's easy to get caught up with those.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, excellent show. Thank you very much for the contribution.
Good to hear it actually from somebody else's point of view, somebody using the system. And the final one of this month was the Intro to DOS series that Ahuka is going to be doing. And Brian in Ohio says, great show, really enjoyed this episode. The mixing of computer and personal history was great. Can't wait for the next podcast.
Kevin replies saying, you're most welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. I'm basically releasing the DOS series shows about every 4 weeks or so, alternating with my GIMP shows. Yeah, great. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good series. I'm looking forward to this one. From what I've seen so far. And that brings us up to today's show, which we're not allowed to comment about. And there are some feedback on comments on previous shows. My terminal journey by some guy on the internet, and there was a comment saying a perfect time for sudo apt mark hold audacity sudo apt mark showdown.
Show hold,
not showdown. Show hold. Sorry, people.
Yes, yes. So
this is related to the current as you're listening, or current as we're recording, not as you're listening necessarily. Where the licensing for Audacity may or may not be changing.
Yes, it's all a little bit confusing as far as I'm concerned. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do Andrew's one?
Yes, indeed. Yes. The next comment is on Andrew's show, Andrew Conway's show, Making Books with Linux Part 1. John Culp says, page numbers. I've been away from HPR for ages, but checked back in this morning and found this show about ebooks. Loved it, and thanks for the mentions. The discussion about page numbers prompted me to look into the issue because it's something that's bugged me for a long time. I was pretty sure there was support for specifying page numbers in the EPUB 3 standard, but I've never gone into the weeds and figured it out. For fiction, it doesn't really matter, but as you discuss, page numbers from the physical books are still pretty important in academia, where we are expected to cite our sources. I took a couple of hours this evening and learned how to embed page numbers, and tomorrow I'll record a response episode to share how it works. There's good news and bad news involved. ...
And Danger Seeker comments on the same show, fonts and latex. Fonts were a problem for latex in the early days because Mr. Kunt invented his own high-quality system of describing fonts. Later, with PDF latex, I guess, it became possible to use PostScript fonts directly. But PostScript fonts are expensive, and on Windows, PostScript fonts were never really widely used. And then Microsoft invented TrueType fonts. With ubiquitously cheap and not always high quality TTFs, TrueType fonts, there was a growing need to use TrueType font in latex. It seemed like PDF latex can use the fonts in TTF format, but I've never tried it myself. Today, LuaTeX and LuaLatex can not only use TTF, but also the even newer OTF fonts with very little problem. It works, but the goal of LaTeX was to produce high quality documents. That's why the default is extremely high quality, and changing things is hard. With Microsoft products, the rule is to produce very low quality documents, and it is easy to change to Comic Sans or worse. Well, with LuaTeX, you can take part of the low quality document revolution. Well, with LaTeX, I can now take part in the low quality document revolution. Winky face.
That's really useful, actually. Yeah,
It is, isn't
I've
it?
lost touch with this stuff. I've said many times before. We used to use LaTeX, however you're supposed to say it, as the standard way of producing documents on the VAX cluster that I was in charge of way back in the mid-80s and so on. And we bought exciting, wonderfully amazing laser printers to go with this. Oh, such a breakthrough. But anyway, yeah. So all the students produced their reports and dissertations and everything using that. But since the time came when you didn't need to use that anymore, and things like Word and Star Office and things came along, then it all sort of fell by the wayside. Apart from all the people who are writing scientific papers using it,
Yeah.
People in research groups and stuff, and they still are. Of course, it's particularly strong in maths. So I'm very much out of the loop these days. Have been for the past 20 years or more.
So, again, one of the regrets that I had was not learning LaTeX. I think I just came to it a little bit too late in my academic career, because, God, LaTeX documents look good. They really do.
They do.
They just...
And the power that you have to produce stuff that's... You can generate indexes just at the drop of a hat, for example. And, all of the other fancy things and all of the sort of templating stuff where you can get standardized documents by just simply declaring that that's what you want to use is excellent. It's brilliant stuff.
Did we just skip over the fact that Danger Seeker seems to know an awful lot about this and perhaps should do at least an introductory episode to introduce themselves to the network? Definitely option one would be history of LaTeX, followed by the hello world of LaTeX, how to produce a document, how to put an image into a LaTeX document. I could see a series there, Dave. Could you?
Absolutely.
Fame and fortune await. Nowhere near where you're going to be, but they await.
That's what I found. Yeah, that's pretty much my life in general. It's just over there, over that hill. Just you never get there.
Very much. Leprechaun solutions.
Rainbow, yeah. Yes.
Anywho, Trey says, thanks for the feedback, Pork Chop. This was on Pork Chop's feedback to his show, which we covered last month, about the Layer 8 podcast, which is actually quite good as a name for a podcast, Layer 8. See what you did there. Ba-doom-ch. Hi, Pork Chop. I will be adding Layer 8 podcast to my list. Thanks for the feedback from Trey.
Excellent.
Then we had the mailing list discussions, and mostly about the Mumble server closing down, which I'll read. As discussed last December, the Mumble server ch1.teamspeak.cc is going to close down. I've tried to contact, this is coming from me by the way, all the other projects on there, and HPR seems to be the only project still using it. Aside from the cost, the server itself has not been maintained, and my request to update has been closed without comment or action. Fortunately, we have been provided with a room on Delwyn's server. This is being maintained and has an audio test room where you can go in and do an echo test. The details are, get a pen and paper, chatter.sky with an E, haven.net, the default port. So that's chatter, Charlie Hotel Alpha Tango Tango Echo Romeo dot Sierra Kilo Yankee Echo Hotel Alpha Victor Echo November dot November Echo Tango, and the default port of 64738. Please update your clients. And that's what we're recording on today, Dave.
Absolutely. Yep, all seems good.
Which is why there's no show today.
So Josh Knapp, our HPR provider, Chappie, says, was there discussion about using something like Discord?
And I replied, this is strictly about moving the Mumble server we're using for roundtables, etc. I had a discussion on the New Year's show about a Discord server. In my personal, non-janitorial opinion, this is not something I care about either way. If somebody wants that, then it's up to them to maintain it. I will say that we've been active on public networks for years and got absolutely zero engagement. This is links to twitter.com/HPR, facebook.com, and then search for Hacker Public Radio. LinkedIn has got Hacker Public Radio. While on open platforms, we have a weekly, if not daily, feedback, and we are on hashtag HPR and Matrix, HPR at Bots in Space, and then there's a link to a chat group on Jabber and XMPP, which is not easy to remember. And that,
I didn't know about that. Yeah, good, excellent.
And that brings me to, actually, should we be doing, as we were recording this, Mark Archer72 says, has linked into hashtag Hacker Public Radio, hashtag throwback, to episode 339, Reason to Love Simlinks. And that was a show by Earl Kirk. So any more over there? Actually, let's have a look. And HPR on Mastodon is at HPR at botsinspace. At HPR at bot, BOTSIN dot space. Bots in dot space. So we regularly have a hookah and myself boosting the shows. Let's see, Tukutoroto and I were having a discussion about about HPR and how useful it is, etc., etc.
I've not looked at Mastodon much today. I usually go and visit it daily. And Archer72 is doing lots of work on tagging older shows, and he's been flagging up things that he has discovered. Yeah. That was the one you just mentioned, the Reasons to Love Simlinks, which is quite cool. I can't think that I've ever listened to that one. Probably have, but it's a long time ago. So yeah, it's a good thing to go back and look at some of them. There's some excellent stuff in there. And you also get a bit of history of some of the people.
So he also tagged, is there such a thing as ethical hacking, episode 325. He sent in a thread on how to get particular episodes with wget, hackerpublicradio.org, HPR0, and then open bracket, and then 252, 259, and then close bracket.org will pull down multiple ones. He comments on today's show, the DIY cat feeder, episode 311, firewall distros, Nightwise's first episode on HPR about SSH tunneling, episode 310. There's the comment from me about the move of the Mumble servers. Is Google a roundtable 284? Wanted to go back and listen to that one actually. About Tiddlywinks, Tiddlywiki 274, 268 lightweight browsing, 267 copyright volume free Beatles. Oh yeah, and episode 248, the recording skipped at 5 minutes 56. So I actually emailed Morgellon, but he never got back to me.
Ah, okay. That's a shame.
And that's all for this month. But if you want, you can use hashtag hackerpublicradio and we'll read it out here for sending in stuff, tags and whatever. So I'm on there on a daily basis. And if it becomes a thing, we'll no doubt script it in some way that we get the feedback pulled in from there somehow. If somebody has a show on how to do that, that would be excellent as well. Okay, back to the plot.
Just go on Mastodon and find yourself being drawn into all kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. What are people up to?
Fascinating.
Yes. Any other business? The older HBO shows on archive.org, Dave? All of this is yours.
Did you not want to comment about the WeChat on... Oh, that was today, wasn't it? That's the wrong month. Forget what I said.
Okay. What chat?
Freenode. There was email about Freenode today. But
Yeah,
today is the 1st of August, so
it is. But actually, we can, as it's come up, let's discuss it. Freenode. So the IRC channel Oddcast Planet, HPR kind of tagged along there. Although we were never really an Oddcast only show. We do HPR. We do MP3 as well. We're actually doing all the formats now. So because of this issue with Freenode, people have moved to somewhere else. They've moved to Libra. What's the other one? Libera. Libera. Yeah, I don't know what the... Anyway, I personally don't do IRC. I haven't done the IRC administration. Don't know how. If somebody wants to tell me, I don't mind doing it, but don't know how. Somebody who has been adminning the hashtag OddcastPlanet on Freenode, feel free to go over and do it on Libera. Is that all we have to say about that?
I think it is actually. Yeah. I'm really just reading this or absorbing it. I've read it already, but yeah, is it Libera Chat or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that.
I've seen reference to this many times, but it's not stuck in my head, and it's not in these emails. But yeah, we should maybe put something out about where the IRC is now. Well, that was the point, wasn't it? We need to update the website to say if you want to go find Oddcast Planet, it's over there now.
Yeah, and if we're doing that, then I should be sitting in there with listening at least, which I did on Freenode, but then I got dumped out of Freenode recently, and I thought, well, I'm not going to bother. So I'm happy to bother. I don't mind learning. Well, I don't know if I want to take on board IRC administering. If somebody's already doing that, that would be great. But if nobody else is going to do it, I don't mind doing it. So long as somebody tells me how. Which can be, here's the manual on how to do that. Okay, Dave, any other business? Knock yourself out.
Too many tabs open. Yeah, AOB, we've uploaded 35 additional shows in the previously not unloaded, ununloaded 1 to 870 range. And I had to pull a halt because I'd hit up against shows which didn't have tags if I'm doing them sequentially, which seems like logic. So I tagged 10 that needed to be done and uploaded them. But yeah, we need now to be doing tags and then doing the upload. So we're not going to be able to go quite as fast as we were previously, but still, we're getting there. So on the subject of the tags, we had 3 contributors to updates this month. Archer72, who's done lots. I don't keep a record of who's done how many, but and we had Rowan, who also contributed, which is very nice to join in, and some guy called Dave Morris who did a few as well. So 71 shows in total have been updated, and we currently have 222 which still need work. So we have a sort of an unofficial target of getting the whole thing sorted by the end of the year, but whether we manage to do that is another thing. But that's the overall plan.
How do you do? Say, I wanted to do a few shows. How do I prevent doing the same ones?
It isn't there isn't really a mechanism for preventing clashes. I do have a mechanism whereby I can generate you a list of a pre-formatted list of show information. So if you ask for the shows in the range, 100 to 110 or something, I can send you a list of all of the shows there that don't have tags or summaries. If there is a summary but no tags, it will put the summary in with a comment mark at the beginning of it. And similarly, if there is no summary but there are tags, then it will do the same with that. So it's just useful to be able to look at that when you come to do the list. So if we do that, then it doesn't reserve that block, but there's not that many at the moment people who need to be made aware. So it's relatively easy to say, today I am mostly editing this range. So,
can you send me 5 shows to do, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Any 5?
Yep.
And if somebody else was to ask for 5 shows, could you do that for them as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do.
And Dave, what's your Mastodon or email thing? How could they contact you, Dave?
I don't know what my Mastodon thing is.
While you're continue to talk, Dave, I will find out what your Mastodon thing is.
Strange, isn't it? You use it, but you never have to type it because the client knows what it is. So I don't remember things like that. And I have a Gmail account for email. So that would be dave.morris, MORRISS, @gmail.com. So,
and your Mastodon email or your Mastodon contact is at perloid, PERLOID, at mastodon.sdf.org. And if you want to contact me, it's at ken_Fallon at mastodon.sdf.org.
Cool. I think I've put these sorts of contacts in my HPR
profile. Yeah, I should do that too. And it's very easy to change your profile at any time, Dave.
Yeah, you just need to send in what is it? A
new show,
a box of chocolates. Is it?
No, that's all. You just record a show and you send it in, and then we can update your profile.
Much cheaper. Yeah.
That's how you get your profile changed in HPR. Right, that's it. I think is that it. That seems to be it.
I think that we've reached the end. Yes,
we've covered putting ourselves on an Amazon watch list. We've covered ourselves by going to about capitalism. Okay, anything else to make sure that we have some feedback next month? No?
I don't think so. I think
we're done. Okay, tune in tomorrow, actually, for another super exciting episode of Hacker
Public
Radio.
You've been listening to Hacker Public Radio at hackerpublicradio.org. We are a community podcast network that releases shows every weekday, Monday through Friday. Today's show, like all our shows, was contributed by an HPR listener like yourself. If you ever thought of recording a podcast, then click on our contribute link to find out how easy it really is. Hacker Public Radio was founded by the Digital Dog Pound and the Infonomicon Computer Club and is part of the binary revolution at binrev.com. If you have comments on today's show, please email the host directly, leave a comment on the website, or record a follow-up episode yourself. Unless otherwise stated, today's show is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0 license.